Hello.
Hey, Soraya, it's Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing great. So today we are talking to the members of Medicine about their new album, Scarred for Life.
Yes, which is really good.
It is really good. There's some tracks on here that I cannot get out of my head that I keep going to. Later, I'll ask you your favorite, but I haven't.
Well, I think if you look at the track list, you probably know what's my favorite. But anyway,
I think I do.
yes.
There's a few that are my favorites that I keep flip-flopping back and forth. But first up, we're going to talk to Brad Lehner, who is the leader of the band. He's the one guy that's been with the band on every one of their releases. And then later, we'll also be talking to Annette Zilinskas, and finally with Matt Devine, who have all been part of the band in the past and are all on their newest album. So that should be cool. But up first, we have Brad, and we have a few questions for him, but we mainly just want to go through the track listing and see if he has any stories or anecdotes about these songs.
Wonderful. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it.
Hi, this is Soraya.
And this is Jeff.
Our podcast is called Paisley Stage Raspberry and Rhyme.
A podcast where the two of us play music that we like and share anecdotes and background about the tunes.
We hope you'll join our conversation. And without further ado, a grooviar.
Let's get groovy. All right, let's give Brad a call.
Hello.
Hello, Brad. This is Jeff and Soraya.
Hello, Jeff and Soraya. How are you?
We're doing great. We're really excited to get to talk to you about your new album, Scarred for Life. But I did want to let our audience know that I first learned about you, Brad, as the drummer from Savage Republic.
Yeah.
So that's where I first heard about you, but you've been in a number of bands. We really want to focus on Scarred for Life, but you've been in so many projects, done so many solo projects. In fact, my favorite album of yours is Neighbor Singing.
Oh, right on.
I love that
cool.
album. So that album came out in 2007 on Home Tapes label, correct?
Correct. Yeah, that was the first thing I did after sort of emerging from fatherhood.
Oh.
My son was born in 2004, and I kind of didn't do anything for 2 years other than concentrate on bringing up babies. And then so Neighbor Singing sort of represents post parenting, kinder, gentler. I mean, I was trying to make a my version of, like, I guess, a folk record, a neo folk record.
Yeah.
Of course, there's plenty of noise on it because I can't help myself.
You specialize in noise, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
But
it seems to just come out of me. I don't know.
I did have a question about that later in our discussion.
Okay.
About Neighbor Singing, before we move away from that, the album
Sure.
is so vibey. It just has an amazing vibe to it from beginning to end.
Yeah, I just think it's just was just rediscovering the joy of recording and sort of domestic bliss kind of, like a reinvention sort of. I don't know. I'm really proud of all three of those solo albums.
Yeah, they're very good.
They just represent like zero concern. Well, I'm not usually too concerned about what people think, but I mean, those are really just me doing whatever the hell I want to do. And
Well, I'm glad you did that, but I feel like that's your approach all the time, listening to the music.
Yeah, it probably is, yeah.
All right, sorry to get sidetracked right off the bat, but neighbor singing.
Okay, no worries. I'll talk about neighbor singing as much as you want.
We did want to focus on Scarred for Life, but I did want to mention,
Sure.
some of the bands that you've been in, Nervous Gender, Steaming Coils, Lusk, Savage Republic, I mentioned that before. There's so many. The list is huge. I did read somewhere that you were even in 17 Pygmies for a while. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm on a couple of their records even. I mean, I never played a gig with them, but I recorded with them on their record that came out on Island Records.
Okay.
Welcome, I think it's called.
Right, Welcome, yeah.
Which is a really cool, messed up, fun record. And then there's another one that came out that had material that I worked on for that. I think it's called Missy Fish or something like that.
Right, Missy Fish, yeah. Very good.
But yeah, I mean, I was part of that, independent project, Nate Starkman Mafia there for a while.
Well, I thought that was very interesting. I've been playing with 17 Pygmies since 2007.
Right, yeah, I knew that.
I call it like 17 Pygmies 4.0 or 5.0 or another version.
Yeah. It's kind of whatever Phil wants it to be, I assume.
Exactly. And speaking of that, Medicine, I feel, is whatever Brad Lehner wants it to be at the time.
Correct.
Go ahead.
What's that fall quote? Marky Smith said, if it's me and your granny on bongos, it's the fall,
Perfect. I did want to talk a little bit about the lineup. So, in the past, you've had Annette in the band, Beth Thompson, Eddie Rushka, Jim Goodall, Jim Putnam, Matt Devine, even Bruce Lee's daughter, Shannon Lee, right, did some stuff with the band.
We made that one record together, yeah.
So now we're at Scarred for Life, which depends on how you want to count the albums. It's probably, your 7th or 8th?
Right. If you count that compilation of the stuff with Shannon, then it's number 8, as far as actual albums that have been released. But as far as, I mean, whatever. Somebody referred to it as the 7th Medicine album the other day, and I was like, I guess I wasn't counting. It's so complicated.
Yeah, exactly. But, yeah. And who cares, right?
So,
who cares?
I'm the kind of person who probably would care, but for some reason I have the same attitude as you do. It's like, I don't know if you count. I'm not sure which ones you count. I mean,
right.
So, and I just put out that compilation of B-sides that's digital only. I don't know if you count that either.
Right.
I don't know. I guess it's not for me to worry about.
Exactly. Can we focus on the lineup for Scarred for Life?
Sure, of course.
Annette's back in the band. We had Annette on a few months back, and she did talk about this album, and she was very excited, letting us know that it was coming up. Then we've had Matt on the show before talking about Permanent Green Light, so Matt Devine's in the band. And then you have Jim returning on drums, who's played with the band since the beginning, right? Off and on.
That's right.
And then yourself. So
yeah, I mean, and he's been pretty much the only drummer in Medicine, really, aside from when I do drumming on records occasionally. But and then, my good friend Solo Goodspeed, which is actually his name, who I've actually known since I was 11. I actually met him via The Recycler. I don't know if you remember The Recycler.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, so, I mean, I was, he played in a new wave band that I played in when I was a kid, and I met him via The Recycler, and he was the only person I knew who had a synthesizer. So, in the age of Facebook, everybody you ever know, you know forever.
This is true.
So.
One of the things we're also learning is that The Recycler is serving as not just the nucleus for so many bands in the past, but it's really like the Facebook, because it seems like people began to get really connected, start playing together, and start jumping between, projects and different bands. And so Jeff and I have really kind of relished anytime someone shares with us, so I put an ad in the recycler, or
right.
So I like hearing.
I'm sure Annette mentioned that that's how she joined the Bengals. I mean,
Yeah. Brad, if it's okay with you, we'd like to walk through the song from Scarred for Life. So first of all, you need to know Jeff and I have really enjoyed this release.
Absolutely.
Really enjoyed it. One of the things that we were happy to see is, first of all, just a lot of people being drawn to the album. And then we've read and listened to several interviews with you and Annette. And we do know that you get some of the same questions over and over. So we want to try a little different approach with you. So that you're not hearing the same question for the 577th time.
Well, it's part of the job, but that's fine.
Okay. So what we'd like to do is go through the tracks of this release, song by song, kind of like a speed round sort of thing. Right. We'll mention the song titles, and if you could, let us know what's the first thing or memory or something that was important about this release. I think our listeners would really enjoy hearing that, Jeff and I too. So
I can absolutely I can do that.
Wonderful. So let's start with track 1, Scarred for Life, which the original artist is Slap Happy, and from the release Sava, which was released in 1998.
Right. It's a latter day Slap Happy song. A lot of people probably know Slap Happy as the originators of the song Blue Flower, which I believe Magic Star and Tail Saints both covered. But I grew up loving all of the Slap Happy and Henry Cow related recommended records, kind of art pop, prog, just loving that stuff. And I was delighted with Sava when it came out in '98, and I just think it's profound, the lyrics to Scarred for Life. I think it's like one of the most profound breakup / love songs ever written. I mean, I'm not usually, Medicine's not known for lyrics so much, and I definitely mix the vocals low, but hopefully you can hear the profound lyrics on there. And it just seemed to make perfect sense also as the title, because our favorite songs do sort of scar us for life in a nice way, I would think. So, I'm thrilled to be able to get people mentioning Peter Blegvad and Slap Happy. It's great stuff. So, and that's just, I've wanted to cover that since I first heard it. So,
I will say that I think the same thing that goes for Soraya, and from what I've heard from other people, it's the same, in that some of these are familiar, but a lot of these songs aren't. So you had me going back and looking up some of these artists, most of which I've never heard. So I went back and listened to the originals of all of them that I hadn't heard. So I want to thank you for that gift.
Yes.
Oh, sure. I mean, I love music. I'm a fan of music, so I'm thrilled to... I guess I'm probably a frustrated DJ even, and I've been always relished being able to do mixes of songs, and I'm always giving people, mixtapes and CDs back in the day and Spotify playlists now. So I mean, it's and I think my discography is sort of dotted with covers anyway. So it's just, I don't know. It's just me showing the record collector fan in me, because in general, I try to avoid records that sound like what I call record collection music. Where it's, you just where you hear a record and you just hear the collection of influences rather than a unique voice. So I don't know. It's ironic, I suppose. I'm not sure. I mean, it's just. I mean, we've said this repeatedly in interviews and in press materials that we just, it was like a reaction to the election where we were just shell shocked and didn't know what to do. But it's just fun. It's just fun to do covers and not have to worry about the songwriting aspect of things. That's all baked in. You don't get any publishing royalties, but
Right. There's definitely reinterpretation. So there's a few of these songs, and we'll get into that as we go. You can tell it was based on the original, but it's totally medicine.
Right. I mean, I think that in a nutshell, they're all extremely loyal to the originals as far as the chord structures and song structures and harmonically and melodically and lyrically. I mean, they're really very true to the originals. I think it's, but yeah, we play them like we're, medicine rocking out as hard as we can and grinding that, that groovy noise out. So
nice.
It sounds just, I was concerned before it came out that it was almost too reverent and straight, but I think our enthusiasm, our just kind of just excitement about how much we love these songs comes through, and that's, I'm pleased people seem to dig it. So
nice.
But of course, as usual, it was just for us, and so it's cool to see people react to it. It's almost easier, I think, for people to get into than the last couple of records we did of original stuff.
Oh.
Okay, so up next is Sentimental Lady, which I think that most people have heard. And I do have a question for you. I'm curious which original you prefer and what memories or stories you have about your version of Sentimental Lady.
Well, I mean, I like both of them. I mean, the Fleetwood Mac version has, okay, first of all, I need to say that the lyrics of the song are just, nonsense. I mean, and potentially worse, like, I don't know. It was hard to do, and I think Annette was really confused because it's, we grew up in the 70s, so that song was sort of everywhere and sort of cheesy, and I mean, and he's sort of an awkward figure, I mean, people who, if you've seen the video he made for it, I mean, it's just beyond creepy,
Yep.
In our version, I tried to incorporate elements of the Fleetwood Mac and the Bob Welch version, but really, I just adore it on a melodic and harmonic level, and just saw its potential to be like a gigantic fuck-off shoegaze noise monster, which of course is funny because it's called Sentimental Lady, and it's such a yacht rock classic, which we turned it into this, beast, which is
good way to describe it.
I don't even know if that was intentional. I think it was meant to be that noisy, a big noisy beast, but it's all down to Matt. I mean, Matt just did such a great job doing those guitar arpeggios, and that's the secret weapon on the whole album, because he's so good at figuring out songs by other people. He would figure out the chords and then on most of them, and then be like, extremely bemused by what I did after that. He's used to it now, but I think he was horrified by some of them,
That's hilarious. You're singing this one, right?
It's actually Matt, Annette, and I. What Matt's comment about that is it's crazy because you can hear me a lot in there and in there, but it's really strange how it kind of morphs between the three of us on that. But yeah, I guess that one's mostly me. I don't know.
I hear you the most on that one. So.
Yeah.
I gotta re-listen to it now.
It's actually all three of us.
Interesting.
I think that's the only one that Matt sang on.
Well, hence that's why, think about that. Three voices, three powerful, voices, and they come together. Of course this song is going to be a beast,
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, I just think it's like scary, when it goes to that big chorus. I mean, I just turned out scary. I don't know. I couldn't be happier with it. I don't know.
I love
exactly what I wanted it to do, which is it's just perverse, But I mean, I think the song is spotless melodically, and it's as stupid lyrically as "Scarred for Life" is profound,
But Jeff, this is what I find really interesting about all the tracks on this album in particular, is that it's as if I don't know if you remember the movie Reanimator. It's like you took these songs and then you just, they completely changed form. But it's but the essence of it is still there. But man, it's completely different too.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that it comes off that way. I mean,
All right, so let's talk about track 3. This was a really interesting track for me. Dead Time Bumper Blues, written by Judy Silk, off of a 2005 release. Dreams Come True, Hi, I Love You, Right Heartily Here, and New Songs.
Right.
Wow. This track, and I didn't know it before.
Right. It's something she wrote in the 60s. And then the band The Leaves recorded it.
Mm-hmm.
They were actually from Northridge, like right near me. And they had the first version of Hey Joe that was a hit.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And then and then one of those guys, a few of them ended up in the Turtles, and the Turtles were the first group to record one of Judy Silk's songs and actually put it out. The Leaves never put out their version of Dead Time Bumper Blues, and she didn't either during her lifetime. I'm like a lot of people kind of discovered Judy Silk 10, 15 years ago, long after her death, via some reissues that Rhino did. And I just became completely obsessed with her. I still am. I'm just absolutely fascinated by her. And so we just started combing the internet for any unreleased material. So, and I find that song that we did to be, it's not typical for her, but I just love how weird it is rhythmically, and the lyrics are hysterical. I mean, it's about being busted for pot. I mean, and Judy Silk definitely knew what the inside of a jail cell looked like. So, if you know her story, so, I also love that she drops an F-bomb in it, which was not common in the 60s,
Yeah.
And it's also just super musical and weird, has weird time signatures, and I again, if I introduce like 5 people to Judy Silk who didn't know about her before, then I'm thrilled. It's sort of the evangelical approach. She's like a holy composer for me.
And I will say that the guitars on this are fantastic, and I think I hear Annette's harmonica on this song.
That's correct. Yes, and I was thrilled to have an excuse to have her play harmonica, because that's, incredibly endearing when Annette plays harmonica. So, and it's perfect, what she did.
Agreed. So up next is a song that I think that you and Annette have amazing harmonies on, and it's the Buffalo Springfield song "Expecting to Fly."
Right. Yeah. I mean, I took liberties with that. The harmony, the original doesn't have harmonies. It's just the Neil Young, astonishingly great vocal performance. But I actually took liberties and wrote a harmony part. So I'm singing a part that's not on the original. I like what we did with it so much more than that god-awful Echoes in the Canyon. Sorry to be negative.
Speak freely.
Well, I mean, I just thought that movie was a disaster, So, that dead-eyed Jacob Dylan, like, what the hell was that all about? I don't know. But anyway, I was bummed that that song features heavily in that movie. But I mean, I think what we did with it was way better. But because we're not making a big deal about it. That again has really strange rhythmic changes and harmonic changes, and it's an incredibly difficult song to do right. And the fact that our version came out smooth and easy sounding to my ear I love that, because it was probably the most difficult song to do.
Interesting.
It's just a really odd song, and it's really hard to sing. But yeah, luckily I don't think it sounds like it was hard when you hear it, though. So
no, it doesn't. That's why I'm shocked.
Every other version I've heard of it sounds like the people doing it didn't know what the hell to do with it, So, I love that we just did a nice gentle, not over the top version of it. But anyway, yeah.
So, can I ask you then about the following track, Absolutely Free? That arrangement, because it's a great Mothers of Invention song from 1960, from the We're Only in It for the Money release. How'd you guys come up with that arrangement for that one?
Well, I mean, it's very much the original. I mean,
so you just want to keep it true to the original.
Yeah, keep what I love about the original, which is, I mean, I grew up absolutely worshiping Frank Zappa as a kid. And to me, that song is totally out of character for him, in that it's really pretty, and people don't associate Zappa and pretty, with each other. But it's like, I think it's a genuine, heartfelt 60s, pretty 60s psychedelic song. And I wanted to stay as true to that as possible. Nobody's called me out on the on the secret message that we said in there, but maybe I shouldn't even say it. But, unless you guys noticed it, but I'll just say that on the original Frank Zappa version, somebody exclaimed "Flower Power sucks." And we changed it to something else.
All right.
So you have to listen for it.
Excellent. On our podcast, you get homework assignments. So Brad has given a homework assignment here.
We got to listen to what they changed. Flower Power sucks.
Yeah, something else sucks, and it was Matt's idea, and then Annette executed it, and it's a controversial thing to say, so considering who we are. That's all.
Yeah, you don't stray from controversy, so.
No.
No, I don't. I guess I don't care. I don't know, but yeah.
I think you guys were very brave to take this one on, and actually, this song is my personal favorite. Up next might be Soraya's favorite. I don't know for sure, but up next we have the Monkees' "Listen to the Band."
Yeah. I just love that song, and I wanted to do it. I don't know. We could have done like virtually any Monkey song, But I'm a huge Mike Nesmith fan, and I don't know. I had this vision of playing those horn parts on the medicine sounding guitar and just rocking out with it. Honestly.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. And it's a tough song. It's a tough song to reimagine, and man, you do it.
I just love it. I mean, it's a love for the song coming through. I love the lyrics. I love the false ending. And also I knew that it would be perfect for Annette's voice, that sort of country twang.
Yes.
So that's just pure pleasure, really,
Brad, from the sound of it, all of these songs have been just a passion project, but it's just they touch your heartstrings. I love hearing that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, certainly not a commercial notion, It's just, I'm lucky to have the outlet to do something like this that's sort of just personal. But, I mean, and nearly everybody has said, oh, I had to look up, this and that. And I don't know, it all seems really obvious to me, but I guess that's a testament to my weird taste.
Well, I'll say this. If you're a frustrated DJ, we are absolutely ready to listen to your show.
Yes.
So give us all this stuff. Keep giving us all this stuff. And I do want to talk about the next track. If we're going to talk about Annette's vocals being ridiculously amazing.
Unbelievable.
The original artist, the Janettes, and the releases from 1963, Sally Go Round the Roses. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I had always heard the original described as maybe the first psychedelic song. It's certainly very atmospheric, and the lyrics are really mysterious, and people have had like theories about the lyrics, what they mean. What it's just very sort of mysterious and beautiful, and it's been covered 10 million times. I mean, and I wanted to do something closer to the original, but Annette had one of her bands used to do a version of the song live that was more like the Great Society version. Great Society being Grace Slick's band before she joined Jefferson Airplane.
Right.
And I think, I looked into it and realized that the original Sally Go Round the Roses was a huge regional hit in San Francisco in particular. So it's just, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm, a psychedelic kid. I like psychedelic music the best. So, it just seemed like a natural. And I mean, I never could have imagined that Annette would nail the vocals the way she did. It's so, fantastic.
Yeah, I love her voice
I think,
in this.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody would blown away by that. That was the first thing that she did for the record too. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was, like we knew we had something good going, and it was Matt's idea to put the Beatles rhythm under it. He put the Tomorrow Never Knows beat.
Yeah, that drum beat.
And the Taxman bass line. So in a way, we didn't do any Beatles songs, but that was our way of including the Beatles.
That beat makes this for a great track. I would think if there's a single on this album that it's this one.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the obvious one, but I don't know. It's all singles, though,
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the point, right?
It gets weird from this point on, sequence-wise, but, that's medicine.
Indeed. So we were talking about neighbors singing when we first started talking. To me, your version of The Sweetest Girl, the Scritti Politti song, could easily have fit sonically on neighbors singing. This is great. Why this song?
Well, I just adore Scritti Politti, number one. I mean, I bought that single when it came out, when I was like 13, 14. I bought it, I think I heard it on a NME cassette compilation, the C81 cassette. It's actually the first song on there. And then realizing that Robert Wyatt plays the piano on the original, and I just think that Green Gartside, the singer from Scritti Politti, is one of the great melodicists of all time. I mean, there's a reason why Miles Davis covered Perfect Way, because it's just an incredible melody writer, and again, incredible lyrics. I mean, the lyrical terms in that are just stunning. I mean, I suppose it's sort of a postmodern deconstruction of a pop song. Because the title is The Sweetest Girl in quotes.
Right. That's interesting.
It's got ironic quotes. Sort of like, to protect and serve on cop cars are in ironic quotes.
There's a lot of subtext there. I'm going to leave that alone.
So Brad, is it blasphemous for me to say that I think that the Medicine version actually is better than the original? I just love.
I wouldn't say that, but ours is probably more finished. The original is sort of raw and tenuous as part of its charm. I think that he had guilty feelings about doing like a lovers rock type tune, because everything Scritti Politti had put up till then had been very angular, post punk. I mean, genius. Their early stuff bears very little resemblance to their later hits, but always with Green Gartside's melodic sensibilities. So I think he was sort of embarrassed and sort of downplayed it a bit, whereas we maybe fully embraced it. But super challenging, and I almost feel like our version that's probably the most like the original. I don't know. Every little drum fill is like exactly as it was on the original, every little programmed drum fill.
When I listen to the song and it gets to the end, I have to go back and play it at least once more, if not twice, before finishing out the album. It's so good.
Thank you. I mean, it's so much fun melodically. I mean, and to sing those lyrics. I mean, the she left because she understood the value of defiance. I mean, it's just really literary, but also, he wrote it, because he's been listening to Gregory Isaac, like lovers rock, roots reggae, So it's very, I don't know, maybe I can relate to that sort of grappling with pure pop and having to do something to undermine it. So, but I was horrified to find that Madness covered that song. I didn't realize until after we did our version it's on the album that has Our House on it, which is a great song. Yeah, their version of The Sweetest Girl is hideous, you know. I think they changed it to The Nuttiest Girl or something at some point. I mean, it's, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
And sadly, I think there's people in England who only know it as that.
Oh,
Nothing against Madness. I just, you know, but why? You know.
Good question.
Okay, Brad, you're going to have to help me before I absolutely butcher it.
Oh.
Is it Jimmy Jouffre?
You did it. That's
oh,
it.
Hooray.
I know. All right. The poor guy has like this unpronounceable last name. But yeah, Jouffre.
Jouffre, thank you. These last three tracks to me are really interesting. I think it's final three sequencing. I'm fascinated by it. So I'm talking about The Green Country. So written by Jimmy Jouffre. The original art is from a 1958 release, Traveling Light. This is an interesting choice.
Well, I've become completely, in the last few years, completely obsessed with Jimmy Jouffre and his body of work, which is enormous. I just, you know, it delights me as like a lifelong music listener and record collector to discover a body of work by somebody that is astounding that I just hadn't known about until recently. And all I can say is, you know, dive in, because it's incredibly beautiful, subtle stuff. And that version was just literally me learning that piece note for note. The original is guitar, clarinet, and trombone. And my version is just guitar and then the clarinet and trombone parts played on synthesizers.
Wow.
But I mean, it's note for note. If you go and listen to the original, it's like exactly the same thing. It was an exercise, a therapeutic exercise. I just, sometimes when I love a piece of music so much that I need to learn how to play it just so I can inhabit it and understand it. And it's clearly, I guess it's like a little breather or a amuse-bouche, a palate cleanser,
Nice.
But really, it's just an excuse to just learn a piece of music that I love, and again, to make people go, who the hell is, this Jimmy Jouffre guy? Because there's dozens. I mean, to this day, I find records that he was involved with that I didn't know about. Dozens of them.
Wow.
And it's all so good. He was so, I don't know. I guess as I get older, I get fascinated with pre-psychedelic music that is completely unlike, anything else at the time. And I just think, just guitar-wise, the stuff he was doing in the 50s was very raw and abstract compared. I don't know. I mean, it's beyond subtle, his stuff. It's probably too subtle for most people. It was definitely too subtle for younger me. I never would have gotten it.
I'm definitely going to have to check him out more. This is a very cool instrument.
Yeah, I mean, my number one suggestion would be the Western Suite record, also from 1958 or 1959. That is just, I mean, it could have been recorded yesterday. It's yeah.
Wow. I'll have to hunt that one down. So,
right up there for me. Yeah.
So the next song, the Codeine song, pickup song, you said you tried to stay pretty true to the original. On the original, it gets pretty loud at parts, and you guys stay pretty atmospheric.
It's a rock song, and we just did the very spontaneous, gather around the piano version. except for the only thing I took from the coding thing was the gigantic slide bass part. Any excuse to play slide bass. I mean, so, yeah, I mean, that was Annette's idea, and I just like that perversity of like dropping suddenly a song from a 90s American alternative band in there. But I remember in the old days when Annette was in the band and we were first starting it, that she was really into that Codeine record. So it just meant that Codeine record actually reminds me of when we worked together before. So it was actually perfect. I mean, it's very much an Annette thing. I mean, I was never a massive fan. I just,
Yes.
But I like the confusing aspect of it. And it's also funny that Medicine covered Codeine, and I mean, it's
yeah. And Brad, I got to tell you that Annette's singing on this song reminds me of Louise Bialik when I hear Annette's voice. Anyways, a name from the past.
Yeah, it's a significant name from my past, but what are you gonna do?
But Annette does a fabulous job.
Yeah, I mean, it's really neat, and that piano and vocal was recorded on my phone.
What?
Yeah, I just put my phone down next to the piano, and so that basic track is Annette and I playing it, live into my phone, and then I overdubbed the rest properly. But yeah, I'm known to do that occasionally. There's a song on the To the Happy Few records that we did a few years ago that's almost entirely recorded on my phone.
Wow.
So they sound good,
Begs the question, what phone do you have?
It's just my iPhone.
Wow.
Try it at home, kid.
Now we know if we ever get together with Brad, just be ready to perform on the spot.
That's right. You never know. We're making a record.
All right. You killed me with this last track, on the
I'm
release.
sorry.
No. In a great way, because when in my world was I going to hear Medicine interpret Miles Davis?
Right.
And Black Satin.
Yeah.
A 10-minute instrumental.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've mentioned this in other interviews, but we used to drop that into sets back in the day.
Ooh.
So that's actually, I mean, I almost joked that was like cheating because Jim and I have been playing that for forever. I mean, there's footage of Medicine in '92 playing it, when we were touring with Smashing Pumpkins. Just, I'm sure very few people realized what they were hearing, but yeah. So, I mean, it's sort of we had to include that because that's like probably the first Medicine cover version. But yeah, I mean, what can you say? Miles Davis is the god of music. I mean, the ultimate muse. I mean, a lot of it's similar to the reason why I wanted to listen to the band. It's a horn part that I wanted to play on guitar. So there's that melody, that crazy melody, that just, is a joy to play on guitar. And with wah wah, you could sound like Miles at that time. So it's always just been like a fun sort of mind fuck to, hear this so-called shoegaze band, whipping out a jazz funk great,
Right. If any of our listeners haven't heard the original, do yourself a favor and go listen to the original.
Yes.
It's an amazing, funky track.
Yeah, I mean, the whole album, everything. I mean, and it's amazing to think that period of Miles Davis is hated by jazz snobs. I mean, I've read biographies of him where it's like the true jazz fan, will want to stop paying attention at this, and around the time that Bitches Brew, it's just that's right when I get into it, So, I mean, yeah. Again, if I could convince any sort of person who only listens to shoegaze music to pick up Electric Miles records, then my work is done.
Nice. So I did want to ask you, and it's the obvious question, Brad. You guys came up with these covers to do, and I'm sure, I know from what I've read and heard, you guys were tossing around different ideas. What songs were on the brainstorming list that you didn't do that you wish you would have done?
Oh, well, I mean, we started, speaking of the Beatles, we recorded a basic track for a song that's connected to the Beatles, but they didn't write. That's Some Other Guy. It happens to be like the earliest footage of them playing. There's a footage of them playing it in the Cavern Club that I'm just really haunted. It's just like really powerful footage, and Lennon seems really on edge, and it's just really raw and cool footage, easily found on YouTube. And so I think eventually we'll finish that one, but we started it and we just didn't finish it. The only other one that we started and then like completely abandoned was our original choice for a Neil Young song before we did Expecting to Fly, which was Come On Baby, Let's Go Downtown, which we tried and just just wasn't feeling it. I still love that song, and I'm glad we ended up doing Expecting to Fly instead. So those are the only two that we abandoned. And then I can't even remember. There was so many. I mean, Matt in particular threw tons of ideas at me. Matt's a massive Rolling Stones fanatic.
Yes, you're right.
So he was really pushing for various Stones songs, and it was always a no from me. I don't know. So, yeah, I mean, Matt could easily make, volumes of cover songs on his own, and he's recorded a lot of great covers as well. His version of Skip Spence's Little Hand is really great. It's on one of the Ventilator records. But I mean, I like the idea of covering an entire album at some point.
Oh wow.
So who knows? I mean, this is probably not the last covers related thing, but it would be nice to put out an album of Medicine originals next. But I'm trying to figure out how to do that presently, because I don't like repeating myself, and so. But yeah, considering how it was my hope that this album would be well received, and then therefore we could sort of have an excuse to do another one, and I feel like it has been. So that could happen. I don't know.
Nice.
It's endless. I mean, the amount of material that we could potentially do. I mean, we could do another album of just songs by the artists that we covered on this one, like the different songs by each artist. So there's so many possibilities.
So I did want to ask about the availability of it. So our listeners can find it if they look for download versions or streaming versions.
Yeah.
And there's vinyl, which I have. It's limited to 100 copies, I understand. Is that right?
That's correct. We only put 100 out for sale, and because who the hell wants tons of records laying around?
You're preaching to the choir.
I do.
I'm sorry?
I do.
Oh, okay. No,
Yeah,
I
me
mean,
too. No, don't worry.
I mean copies of the same record, like boxes of one record.
Oh, right.
I love being surrounded by records, believe me. But, one copy each will suffice,
Exactly.
So, to me, it's just, it also was a way of sort of rewarding the people who were paying close attention,
Yeah.
And encouraging others who weren't paying close attention to maybe pay closer attention for next time,
Right.
I just think that so it's manufactured scarcity, but it's in a time of, where scarcity is, as far as music goes, is totally unheard of. I mean, I don't know. It is very satisfying. I'm sure very frustrating for some people, but it's also, easily heard, It's not like you can't hear it. I mean, not like when we were kids and, you had to get that single with the B-side that wasn't anywhere else because there was no internet,
Right.
Now it's more symbolic and I don't know. I don't know. I found it a very, satisfying exercise to just put them out there and be done with it, instantly.
Okay.
And relieved also, because that would have been really humiliating if we couldn't sell 100 of them, So
right.
I was really relieved that we sold them,
Right. So our listeners, if you want to hear this, you're gonna have to download it or stream it.
Yeah, or stream it.
Yeah, I stream it all the time if I want to hear it. I don't necessarily put the record on. I mean, I love vinyl, but I mean, it sounds fine,
Right.
It's not like it doesn't sound as good. I mean. But yeah, it's a groovy record to have in your hands. But I don't know. I just say that people who missed out, then keep an eye on us.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'll teach you. No, I don't know.
I'm glad I have a copy in my hand. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to have friends in high places.
Indeed. So Brad, we are going to talk to Annette and Matt just a little bit to supplement our conversation that we have with you, and we're going to throw those on the end. I did want to ask you, if you'll play along, if you could come up with one question for Annette and one question for Matt, either something that you want to know, I'm sure you probably know everything about those guys, or something that you would want them to answer for our listeners to know. So if you're willing to play, is there a question that you have for Annette?
Oh my God, I have to think for a second.
Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot here, so. All right, Brad. Well, I appreciate your time. We've taken almost an hour of your time. I really, really appreciate you walking through all of these songs. For our listeners, please seek this out. It's an amazing record. And any last thoughts before we let you go?
No. Thanks for talking to me about it. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Brad. I really appreciate you walking through and taking the time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you both.
Okay, we will talk to you later.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow.
That was really fun, Soraya.
That was pretty damn cool.
All right, well, now we got some background about these tunes. I'm going to go back and listen to these songs with a fresh light, with this fresh information.
I'm going to listen to see what sucks. On that Mother of Invention song.
Right. And up next, we have Annette Zilinskas talking about her work with Scarred for Life.
Annette, we wanted to welcome you back to Paisley Stage Raspberry and Rhyme, and this time to talk with you about the new Medicine release, Scarred for Life, which you did tell us a little bit about when we spoke to you earlier in the year in April. And Jeff and I are really enjoying the album, and we wanted to know, how was it working with Brad again and working with Matt Devine?
Oh, wow, yeah. So Brad and I got together many, many years ago, and he had some musical ideas, some songs, and I came over, and we came up with the song called Ruka, which was on their debut album in the 90s. So we worked together back then, writing some songs, and, at the time I was in two other bands, and one was on a major label, so I had to, I couldn't be in several bands at that time. I had to fulfill that that label thingy. So Medicine went on to become this great band, and then I did my thing, and then somewhat recently we just sort of stayed in touch and said, hey, let's get back together and see what we can come up with. And so it was Brad's idea to do covers, and I was up for it. I didn't really know what we were going to do. So we all, including Matt Devine, Brad, and myself, had ideas of songs we'd like to cover, and mine was Sally Go Round the Roses. But actually my version was the Great Society version. But the Janette's version, the one we recorded, definitely lends itself better. Working with Brad was absolutely seamless. It was organic. We just kind of took it as it went. We would do it on weekends, and, there was no hard schedule deadlines, none of that. It was more therapy. It was more just a release from our climate of Trump just being elected. So it was just kind of creative release, and it was low pressure, and it came out way, way above and beyond. And Matt, I worked with Matt, but he was in the studio separately. Like he would come in, because they live out in Chatsworth, and I'm downtown. So I didn't really work with Matt one-on-one, but I certainly did with Brad. But I adore Matt, and his parts came out amazing. They're so good.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you guys sound, it sounds...
My humble opinion.
Yeah. Ours as well. So, Annette, do you have a favorite track from Scarred for Life?
Yeah, I have a few. At first it was the title track, Scarred for Life, Expecting to Fly, Sentimental Lady. I'd say those are probably, am I forgetting something? I think those are my top three. Oh, and Dead Time Bummer Blues, the Judy Sills cover. I love that version. To me, it sounds like almost something, very Beatle-like. And since Brad and Matt are huge Beatle fans as well as myself, it definitely has sort of a Revolver-esque sound to it, which I love. Yeah, and it kind of, to me, it always sort of reminded me, if you listen to the song, it's a Judy Sills song. If you know anything about her, it was when she was in jail, I think, and wrote that song about her experience in jail. And I always thought it sounded like sort of like a point of view from sort of a Manson girl perspective, you know what I mean? And we were recording it right when Tarantino was filming, and I said, oh man, if only I could have like hustled that song to him some way, somehow, but timing wasn't right, obviously. And,
Can I ask you about, first of all, Jeff and I were super excited to hear your harmonica on Dead Time Bummer Blues.
Oh yeah.
Was that another organic decision to include it?
God, I'm trying to remember if it's in the original or not. No, it's not. So we did fold that in ourselves. That was Brad's idea because he always sort of got a kick that I played harmonica, and I've been playing harmonica like even before I picked up the bass. It's funny, I was just talking about this, and that just sort of stood out in his mind. He remembered that. He's like, yeah, let's just bring on some harmonica, and so we did, and we put it through like just crap load of distortion and echo, and it's more like an ambience, but it was something that was not on the original version, of the Judy Sills song. That's another thing. These songs, a lot of them I didn't really practice. He just said, here, let's do it. So it was kind of on the spot.
Wow.
Yeah, not all of them, but some of them were like, hey, let's just try this. We're here. Okay. And then bam. Yeah, it was like that.
Annette, which were the covers that you suggested that made it onto the album?
It was the Codeine song, the really slow Codeine song, the dating song, and then Sally Go Round the Roses.
That's one of my favorites.
Oh, wow, thanks. Yeah, thank you. I always loved Sally Go Round the Roses because of the lyrics were just so haunting and weird to me. It's like, what do they mean? There's so many different potential meanings behind it, and I just love that ambiguousness to it. So.
And can I say on that song that your vocals just sound amazing, and I really like the line, "The roses, they can't hurt you," which is pretty true to the Janette's version, but your vocals on that song sound amazing.
Oh my God, thank you so much. That means so much to me because, again, that was another song that I was more familiar with the Great Society version. I don't know if you are familiar with that one. It's more mantra-esque. It's more psychedelic. It's more linear, it's more, it doesn't move as much, the melody. And Janette's is more Motown, no doubt. It's like psychedelic Motown. which to me is unusual right there. And so I was kind of like, whoa, I haven't really sung this version before, especially the real gospel-y part. So, or whatever you want to call it, gospel-y, or where it's kind of more soulful sounding. So it was a cool push for myself, for my vocal abilities. It was nice. It was fun. It was super fun. Yeah. But for some reason, Absolutely Free, the phrasing, and I swear it's just because I wasn't that familiar with it. So I'm like, okay, let's try this part again. You can do it. Okay. There were some of those moments on that song.
It's interesting that you say that, Annette, because I think, and Jeff and I have talked about this album together, just kind of reacting back and forth. It's interesting for me to hear this because I say it really does sound like, I don't know, everything sounds so, I don't know if this is the right word, Jeff, comfortable. Like the tracks just sound so cohesive. And I'm learning just now that you weren't too familiar with Absolutely Free. And that to me is just kind of blowing my mind right now.
I wasn't familiar with that one, and there was, and honestly, there was another one I wasn't familiar with, and that turned out to be kind of one of my favorites, is Scar for Life by Slap Happy. Mm-hmm. I'm familiar with them, but not that particular song. So I just liked it, and again, I think it has to do with how Brad and I work together. I can't tell you how important that was, because on one hand, he's like, and we hadn't worked together for a while, right? So whereas before we would just throw stuff on the wall and see what stuck. Well, this time when I walk in, he says, I just want you to know that we're going to go over every line, word for word, note for note, that it's going to be perfect. And I was thinking, wow, this is really the different approach that we took before. And there was a little bit of a gulp on my end. You know what I mean? It went from just sort of this noise pop to all of a sudden I felt like maybe I was going to be doing sort of Beach Boy, really precise, working with Frank Zappa, where it's really precision oriented. And I really loved that. I loved that we did go over some of the stuff, and not to pat myself on the back, we didn't really have to, because I worked pretty quick in the studio. So it didn't have to be painful, like note for note, because he really wanted there to be harmonies and really, the tightness to it, because you want that tightness vocally with the big music around it. You can't have it loose in all the areas. So it was definitely a concerted, you need to hit that note right, we need to get these harmonies down, but it went effortlessly because it just worked. It just gelled, know. And I have enough experience in the studio as well as he does, so it went pretty quick.
And I think it really just shows how cohesive you and Brad are as a musical unit. And it begs the question, Annette, Jeff and I have to ask, is there possibly would there be any moment in the future where we could see a live Medicine performance, or better yet, or even a plus, another Medicine record in the future with you on it as well?
First of all, did you ask Brad these questions that you just asked me? Because I know you interviewed him as well. The reason I say is because at this moment he is producing something, so he's kind of singularly focused on that at the moment. This album was recorded well over a year ago. There's always a delay as to when something gets released. So right now he's in the midst of that. So anything's possible afterwards. Anything's possible as far as recording. Absolutely. I certainly do see us doing something. Will it be exactly like this? This type of music? I don't know. It's possible, but maybe we will do something else, but I would say more, I think once Brad completes this project and whatnot, we'll definitely get back together in the studio and do some other stuff, and with Matt too, for sure. I'd love all that. Just again, because it was just, as you said, it was effortless and it was really easy, you know, and it was fun. And as far as the other songs, honestly, the majority of the songs that were chosen was Brad and then Matt, and then I got a couple of those songs in. I did throw a couple in the ring that didn't make it as far as didn't think it would work. And I can't remember which ones those were. It might have been the Willow song, actually, the one that's on Wickerman the movie.
Uh-huh.
The folky song. I think, because I love that song, but we just didn't think it was going to work. And there was another one, but I can't recall. But Sally made the cut, and Sally was the first one we recorded. Yeah, it's fun, super fun.
All right, we have a couple more questions before we let you go, Annette, but I wanted to switch gears a little bit and move away from Scarred for Life, and I wanted to ask you, I understand that you're a record collector?
I inherited, not that long ago, a lot of vinyl. Yeah, I have become this vinyl collector all of a sudden. It didn't start off that way, but I guess maybe it never does. It just grows.
Right. So do you shop for vinyl? And if you do you go to record stores or do you do it online?
Oh God, I'm bad. I do it online just because it's more convenient and I'm so busy.
Yeah.
And I find such amazing deals. For example, I just posted my I Believe in Music, which was something that I played. Oh God, I got it for like $3,
Nice.
It's not in great shape. It's got pops. It's got light scratches, but it's still playable. But I do prefer the experience of going to record stores for sure. I like to go to Rockaway. I like Amoeba. Those are two of my go-tos, I would say. And there's one on oh God, what is it called? It's a real super indie one. It's right next to the Echo on Sunset and Echo Park.
Oh yes, I know which one you're talking about. I don't know the name of that, but it's
escaping me right now. It's super super small, but I like that one too. Just when I'm in the neighborhood. So yeah, I totally love scrounging around to do some crate digging there for sure.
Do you have a couple?
A little bit of a collector. Yeah.
Do you have a couple favorite albums?
Oh, that's so hard.
It is, right? It's an impossible question.
Hard. I can't. I love so much. I love. My mind. Where I was just talking about. My old Zeppelin 3. Or which I love the vinyl. Or well, actually, okay, Bobby Gentry. I just got. I love my Bobby Gentry album. Matter of fact, I'm going to look at them right now. I've got My Texan Horsehead's Back, Blood on the Saddle, of course, I love. Skeeter Davis, End of the World. I'm so in love with that. Just got My Rare Rockabilly, Link Ray, Marty Robbins. All of it's my favorite. I just can't narrow it down.
Yeah.
It's cruel to ask these things.
It's a cruel question. It is.
So, wait, this is the one I'm trying to find, the soundtrack one, which was kind of rare, and I saw it at my friend Liz Garrow's house, and I'm like, oh, I need to get that. The Last Picture Show, the Peter Bogdanovich movie, which is the soundtrack was always amazing, and then it's all like Hank Williams, and it's hard to find that, in record stores. So yeah, I went online and I found it.
There you go.
I know, it's kind of crazy, like
no
how
stone.
you can find almost everything. And actually, speaking of vinyl, Brad just told me that Scarred for Life, since it was such a limited pressing, he saw it on eBay. Oh God, what did he say, for like $100 or something? Maybe even more. Yeah.
High demand.
So, yeah, yes, or very limited pressing. Yeah, definitely.
That too. A number of us have had to stream it or download it.
That's the main objective, really. That would.
Annette, we've got one final question, and this one is from Brad. We asked Brad to give us a question that he would like to ask you.
Oh, wow, cool. Okay, I'm listening.
I would suggest asking her about having to learn all of the Bangle songs that she never recorded with them on bass for the shows that she's doing now. Like, what was that process like?
Nice.
Of having to learn this massive body of work on bass, and just in general, but that's how she's been enjoying being back in that fold.
Nice.
I think that would be interesting.
Very cool. I love that.
But mainly that, I just find that fascinating that she, she's more of a singer, so it's just a testament to her flexibility as an artist. That she could hunker down and learn all these parts that she never played in the first place.
Nice.
And then
It's true.
go out on stage and play in front of 20,000 people. It's just, I don't know. I find that, definitely worth discussing.
The hardest part wasn't so much to learn the songs per se, but how many I had to learn in such a short amount of time. That was like a little bit of a stress morsel. But it was super fun because I was able to pull it off in the time I was given, and no clams, no mistakes. I mean, I'm staring at my fingers probably more than I should, but it's just because I'm still like, I'm trying to think. The first big show I played with them after the whiskey show was at Nokia, and that was for like over 10,000 people. So we only had one rehearsal for that particular show, and that was like for 45 minutes. You know what I mean? So it was a little like, okay, can I do this? So baptism of fire, I did, and I love playing bass. God, I really, really love bass. It's just so comforting for me. It's just great.
Nice.
I totally dig it. Yeah. So the songs weren't super difficult, and it's kind of fun when they're more challenging, but it was just the not a lot of time a lot of time I did not have to learn it, which was like kind of scary.
Right. And I'm sure you enjoyed getting back together with them and playing.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. It's been such a thrill. I can't even tell you. It's just such an amazing thing, and I really did not expect anything like this, and it is great. It's wonderful.
And then we love, first of all, Jeff and I are really enjoying this Medicine album. We love hearing you perform, and whether it's with the Bangles, with Medicine, or anyone else, we just love hearing you out about playing your music and hearing that voice of yours. So we're just thrilled.
Cool. Thank you so much. That means so much to me. It's very touching. Thank you. It was fun.
Oh my gosh. And thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with us a little more about this album. Once again,
I feel better now already. Yeah. Thank you so much. And hopefully I will see you guys soon at some shows. And yeah, let me know when this goes up so I can put it on my socials.
Awesome.
Thank you so much,
Take care
Annette.
of yourself. Thanks again. Feel better.
Oh, thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Jeff, I always love talking with Annette.
Yeah.
And I learn new things every time we talk to her. But one of the things that really kind of, I just can't let it go is her saying, one, that she wasn't super familiar from the get-go with songs like, Absolutely Free, because you don't hear it. Like, it just sounds so comfortable and so, I mean, I know comfortable is not the right word, but it just sounds so easy.
Yeah, effortless, natural.
Cohesive.
Mm-hmm.
That really just blew my mind, but I think it just really paints a really good picture of how good her working relationship is with Brad Lehner.
Absolutely. And we didn't mention, but they actually share a birthday, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but she had mentioned that before, so maybe that has something to do with it. But yeah, they seem to work very nicely together.
I love it. And I like that her top 4 so far from Scarred for Life are Scarred for Life, Expecting to Fly, Sentimental Lady, and Dead Time Bummer Blues.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I was kind of expecting Listen to the Band, but I'll take her top 4 any day, any time.
Nice.
And this is really just the way Medicine reimagines these covers. Because, Brad really aptly says, really tries to pay honor and be respectful of the original cover. But really, you're right. They've made these covers very Medicine-y.
Yep. Yeah, it's true as they are to the original. They have a vibe about them that is super Medicine-ish. So,
I mean, who distorts and puts echo on a harmonica?
Brad Lehner.
They do.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I think is cool is it's a cover, but it's still innovative and, kind of breaking new ground. I just like this album a lot.
Yeah,
I like
it's
the
great.
direction they've gone with it. But, and I just like hearing her talk about her craft.
Yeah, she's
I like
great.
She says, well, I don't do too well with harmonies. No, you do pretty awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
I love her voice.
Yeah, she's
But
great.
anyway,
Yeah, so I am ready to hear what Matt has to say.
I think that's a great idea.
All right, let's talk to Matt.
So, and next, Matt Devine.
Hey, Matt, how's it going?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you fine. Soraya?
Yes, perfect. Matt, we want to thank you for returning to our podcast. And the last time we had you on, we were talking about permanent green light release hallucinations. And this time we have you on to talk a little bit about the new medicine release, Scarred for Life. And Jeff and I are really enjoying the album. And we'd like to know what it was like to work with Brad again, and also what it was like to work with Annette.
So basically, Brad and I just were hanging out, really, was how I think it began. I had moved back home to LA from Austin, and so we're just kind of catching up. And it was 2016, it was post-Trump and all that stuff. So it's kind of like, he kind of jokes about it, that was the beginning of it all. But that was definitely part of it, talking through all that. And then just listening to records and talking about the music that we dug. And it kind of just led from there.
Wow. It's really a great album. There's so many good covers that you guys do. And I was wondering, Matt, do you have a favorite song that you guys did from Scarred for Life?
Yeah, I really like the title track, Scarred for Life. I think that's really cool. Expecting to Fly, I think, is a favorite of mine. I've loved that song for a long time. And just Annette singing on it, and with Brad and Jim drumming on that track, just getting to play with those people is real meaningful, and I think that came across really well. So that might be a favorite for me.
And we understand that the three of you made suggestions of what songs to cover. And I think our listeners would really like to know, what were the covers that you suggested?
It was so conversational. I don't really remember exactly what I suggested. I think maybe Sentimental Lady. But I know that was on Brad's radar from some time. Listen to the Band might have been another one. I mean, really, all these songs we knew and loved, and I'm sure like something like Expecting to Fly, Brad suggested that, and when he mentioned it to me, he was talking, I want to do a Buffalo Springfield song, and at first I was thinking, oh, is this going to be Mr. Soul? And then he said, no, I want to do Expecting to Fly, and I was like, oh man, I love that song. And so he had suggested it, but it was something that was on my radar because this was a fantastic song by a fantastic band. So those are the two songs that I remember maybe pitching or talking about. But it was really, there wasn't any sort of like severe process for picking the songs. It was really just talking about music that we loved.
Right. Both of those are great songs. And in fact, Brad had mentioned with Sentimental Lady that was the one song that all three of you sang on. So I think you sing on that as well, right?
Yeah, I'm singing throughout, and it's really great whatever Brad did with the production, because it kind of like, I'll hear me singing loud and clear, and then it morphs into Annette's voice because we're doubling each other, and so it just adds to the psychedelic feel. And I love whatever he did on the vocals on that track. Just I love listening to it.
Yeah, the three of you sound great singing that one.
Yeah, I'm a big Annette fan. Her singing is just, I think she's singing impeccably throughout this whole record. So to be able to sing with her on that one track, it just was very cool.
And Matt, the guitars on Dead Time Bummer Blues are really, truly amazing. And we're really interested in the process that you went through to record your guitars for that track.
For a bunch of the songs that I played on, the process of working with Brad was really interesting, and it kind of, the way I described how he produces, it is like a form of alchemy where he just kind of transforms whatever gets tracked into something completely different than what I imagined it could be. And so with Dead Time Bummer Blues, that was one of the songs where my guitar was tracked first with a click, and then he built everything around it. And
Oh, wow.
another song that he did that with is the Zappa cover. So we basically talk about the song, or he would play it for me, or I'd pull it off of Spotify, and I'd listen to it, and I'd spend time learning the song, and then I'd go in and track it, and then he would just build this world around it, and it just was impossibly cool to hear. It always kind of surprised me where it went. So Bedtime Bummer Blues was one of those songs.
Those guitars sound great on that song. That's my favorite guitar song on the album. So, Matt, you're very complimentary of Brad, but I wanted you to have a quick response to a quote that Brad gave us about you. If you could respond to this. And his quote was, "Matt is the secret weapon of the whole album." How do you respond to that?
Obviously, I'm flattered. I think the world of Brad, and we've been friends since I met Brad in 1989, 1990. And we've made music with each other in so many different, the Original Medicine, a band he had after that called Amnesia. He played in a band that I had called Ventilator for a little bit. We've always played and helped each other out with songwriting or music. So for me, working with him on this record, it was real meaningful because it was really that shared love we have for the songs. And it all just happened very organically. There wasn't anything that was forced. It all just kind of came together. So it means a lot to me that he digs what I did for the record, and more than just the music, hanging out and making the music happen. That's typically the funnest part for me, and so I enjoyed that a great deal.
That's so cool. Yeah, we were remarking when we were speaking with Annette, how natural the combination feels with the three of you. It just sounds really natural.
Yeah, and Brad and Annette go way back too. So them working together in on this record, I just think that's really cool to see that come together.
Absolutely.
And I want to piggyback on this, Matt, and I think Jeff and I have the same question. If you were invited to record another Medicine album, would you? And what about if the band decided to do a live gig? Would you be open to recording or playing live?
I'm always up for playing with Brad, and because it's always interesting and it's always something challenging, and it's always cool. So yes, absolutely, and I think it would be cool to see what happens next if, say, an album of original material came together. I definitely hope Annette and Brad continue to work together, because I think the singing on the record is so amazing, and they work together so well. So if I'm asked to be a part of that, I would love that. I don't know any conversations around performing live, Medicine performing live, because I know that Brad, I'm not to speak for Brad, but I don't know if that's something that, as far as slugging it out in the clubs, it's something that would happen. Right. But I could imagine that if the right show happened, that would be up to Brad to make that call. And if it's something that I could help with, and it worked in everyone's schedule, I wouldn't be opposed.
That would be awesome. We don't know any more than that. We're just curious.
Yeah, no touring, no getting in the van, none of that.
Yeah, no.
Indeed.
Hey, so Matt, I have to ask, and we only have 2 more questions left. As the ultimate Rolling Stones fan, if you could have recorded one Stones song for Scarred for Life, what would be the one song that you would pick? Not necessarily your favorite, but what song would you like Medicine to do?
So I would say Just Want to See His Face.
Oh.
I think that would be a good one.
That's a good choice.
Yeah.
Well,
I know Brad's a fan of that.
Well, speaking of Brad, we do have one last question, and it comes from Brad for you.
And then Matt, I don't know. I mean, talk about Possum Dixon, what it was like playing in Possum Dixon. Working with Rick Ocasek, because Rick Ocasek produced an album that he was on with Possum Dixon. I know he has some good Rick Ocasek stories. He worked with Arthur Lee too, and
that's
very
right.
funny story with him. He tried to have me play bass on the song he was producing for Arthur Lee, And I guess I didn't do a very good job. That's like one of the funniest stories. Is, Matt gleefully telling me, like, Arthur Lee said, "Man, that bass player fucked up."
Oh my gosh, that's the question right there. We are asking that question.
That's the one.
Yeah, right. Like, why didn't you let me fix my fuck up so Arthur Lee wouldn't diss me? But anyway.
Nice. Well, Soraya, I'm
sort of perversely proud of that for some reason.
So playing in Possum Dixon, so I knew those guys back in college. I knew Celso in high school, and I met Rob at Valley College. And but like not unlike Brad, we would play music to each other, songwrite, and show each other our new songs, play in each other's bands. And so I played in Possum Dixon in the beginning of the band, and I played at the end. And I was always there, listening to songs and hanging out. And so when their guitar player Rod Sullivan left the band, I was playing music with Byron Reynolds and Ventilator. So it kind of was an organic thing that I wound up helping out the band on songs that became the New Sheets records. So we were, what year is this? This is 1997. And we were demoing and rehearsing and doing some live shows. And it was the third record for the band on Interscope. And they wound up going with Rick Ocasek to produce the record. So we flew to New York, and we were there for 6 weeks and recorded at Electric Ladyland. And it was an amazing experience. It really was. It was fun. It was also intense. Working with Rick Ocasek, he was the real deal, and working in that studio. So it was a lot of fun, and I think that record came out pretty good.
Wow, what an experience. So what about working with Arthur Lee and Brad recording a bass part for that?
So Arthur Lee was managed by the guy who released the first Ventilator record with Feet of Spleen. And he managed Arthur Lee, and at the time he said, "Would you like to record Arthur Lee?" And he felt, and of course the answer was like, "Yeah, for sure." And so, but the thing is, I recorded all that Ventilator stuff in my apartment, and just they're all home recordings. So Arthur Lee came over one day, and I had tracked some ideas on an analog Tascam 388 machine, and he liked what I did with the song that we covered. We covered a Tom T. Hall track. And I'm trying to think. So he came over and he did vocals. I think he came over a couple times and tracked the vocals. And it was something that was unreleased for a good long time. Until that Black Beauty reissue that came out about 4 or 5 years ago on High Moon. And they released it as a bonus track. Arthur Lee's widow heard it and wanted it on as a bonus track on that record. So it did see the light of day. But it was work. I'm a big Love fan, and so to get to work with him was really great. And he sang amazingly. So Brad did lay down a bass on it at one point, and I think it was just one of those. He was busy with amnesia, and it's just scheduling or whatever. And then it wound up just not happening. Like the track just sat unreleased for so long, and then by the time it came out, I'd already tracked the bass to get it done. And then it just sat unreleased for a long time. So it kind of like, it did get finished, but it just got finished in a way that just got the track done.
Right.
And I'm happy with how it came out. But it probably would have been cooler had Brad Lee played bass on it.
Very cool. Well, Matt, we wanted to thank you for taking a few minutes out of your time to talk to us a little bit about Scarred for Life. Soraya and I love this album. You guys did an amazing job. So thank you so much for taking a few minutes to talk to us about your contribution to the album.
Yeah, happy you did the record. Thanks. And thanks for your patience with scheduling. I know that it's been a crazy last couple of weeks. So thanks for that.
Not a problem.
No worries.
Well, you have a good evening, and we will talk to you soon.
All right.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks a lot.
Bye. See you guys.
Bye-bye. So, Soraya, that was really cool talking to Matt. It was neat that we got to talk to all three of these guys that played on the Scarred for Life album. It's neat to get the different perspectives.
Yes, and not many people have an Arthur Lee come over and listen to some track story. Matt Devine's got that story.
Wow.
So,
And record.
yeah,
I was gonna say,
go ahead.
Recording with Rick Ocasek.
Right.
How cool is that?
You know, I just want to backtrack a little. And we heard it from Brad, we heard it from Annette, and we heard it from Matt about the synergy that was really present and prevalent with the three of them working together on this album. And it is something that you can absolutely hear. There was a good working energy, good synergy. And, you know, especially in terms of the vocals and the harmonies and, you know, there's a lot of melodic harmony on this album. And it's really a treat to listen to.
Absolutely. And it sounds like it was just a few friends getting together and listening to music and making music together. And I love that vibe.
I don't know about you, but I don't have friends that are that adept, but
No.
you know what, it's pretty cool to hear. You know, I like hearing that you know, out of a friendship can come a project that gives us, you know, true value, true musical value. I just like it. I like hearing that.
Me too.
Yeah. So yeah, folks, go get Medicine, Scarred for Life. Available for streaming and download. Vinyl copies, very rare. You may have to go on Discogs or eBay and pay through the nose.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, but it's a great album and worth a listen.
Absolutely.
If not multiple listens. So, wow. But again, thanks to Matt Devine, thanks to Annette Zilinskas, and thanks to Brad Lehner for taking the time to chat with us about this really great album.
Yes.
And I don't know. Let's hope that there's more to come. Brad hinted that maybe there'd be some original material in an upcoming album. So I know I'd like to hear it.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. So, all right. So shall we, Jeff?
We shall.
All right, gente. Hallelujah.
Groove on, Paisley people.
Later.
Cool.
All right. So that is. So now, did you finish editing?
Yeah. Except for this. So I just need this on the end.